going to be turning it over to somebody else. So we have a pretty big agenda today, and I'd really like to move it along as quick as possible so that we can get to business and get me out of this seat by noon, if possible. So, Mr. Pedro, would you please lead me in the pledge of the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, oral communications. This is the time that anybody may speak on any item that is not on the agenda. Please come to the podium if you wish to speak. Boy, you're really making this easy. Okay, well, will the clerk please read the consent calendar? Uh-oh. Sure.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, I think it's the rain making not as many people came out. So I just wanted to remind everyone that on January 25th at the Best Western Plus, we're going to be having an Oversnow Vehicle Designation meeting. We had several this last year, but we're going to be having this one with a facilitator and looking at some of the issues and concerns that came up last year, reviewing a map and whatnot. And then additionally, I wanted to let everyone know that this spring we're going to be planting 90,000 trees in the rimfire burn area. So we are looking to enlist the help of community volunteers and get everyone out there. It doesn't, I want everyone to know that you don't have to be a skilled tree planter. So we're having meetings on January 14th at 6 p.m., January 16th at 3, and January 23rd at 3 p.m. at the Stanislaus National Forest Supervisors Office, and then one on January 21st at the Groveland Community Hall at 7 p.m., where we're going to teach people all about planting trees and sign people up, and then we will be planting trees through the spring 7 days a week, and we really hope to get everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. I'm sorry, I may have missed it.
Yes.
Did you state the time and the location of the Over the Snow meeting?
Yes, the Over the Snow meeting. You are very astute, Sherry. We don't have a time for it yet, but we do have the location. So the location is the Best Western Plus Sonora Oaks Hotel and Conference Center, and it's on January 25th. I will send out another notice when we have the time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, will the clerk please read the consent calendar?
Right now. No. I'm sorry, Chairman Gray. I have a non-agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Let me get my material. So, members of the board, on January 3rd, I received a request from the RCRC Legislative Advocate Paul Smith. Oh, okay. It's on. Sorry. To testify at a state assembly committees on business and professions, health and agriculture, joint informational hearing regarding medical marijuana and the plan for statewide implementation. And this hearing is scheduled for January 19th. So I would ask that the board place this item as maybe 10B, or I'm sorry, at the 10 a.m. item B, so that we can address it during the other discussion of the medical marijuana ordinances.
You need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Motion, yes.
I'll move in that this has come up since the posting agenda and is of sufficient urgency that we hear it today.
Second.
First and a second. Any public comment? Bring it back to the board. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. That'd be item 10B at 10 o'clock, appointment B.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now you can read the consent calendar.
Consent calendars. Minutes of the meeting held on December 15th, 2015, finding that a summary of ordinance number 3293 was published, accepting the clerk of the board's 2015 annual report, board-appointed advisory boards, committees, and commissions, adopting resolution authorizing the county tax collector to conduct a public auction of tax defaulted properties, approving correspondence to the Federal Communications Commission in support of the Broadband Lifeline program, adopting a resolution approving the vacation and removal of the county-maintained road system in excess of excess public road and utility easement, being a portion of Silver Street in Columbia, fronting 22770 Silver Street. Approving the revised memorandum of understanding with the Federal Highway Administration and Stanislaus National Forest for the reconstruction of Evergreen Road. Approving the contract for professional services with alcohol monitoring systems and electronic alcohol monitoring equipment provider. Approving a contract with professional services with the Satellite Track of People LLC, an electronic monitoring equipment provider. Adopting a resolution authorizing the Sonora Sunrise Rotary to close section of Highway 120 near Chinese Camp for the 31st Annual Orient Express Foot Race. Approving the reappointments of Larry Bodiford, Carol Southard, Ruth Perrine, and Marge Warner to the Area 12 Agency on Aging, and appointing Michael Pierce. Approving the reappointment of Carlton Penwell and Charlotte Frazier to the Tuolumne County Commission on Aging, and appointments of Diana Davidson, Ismail, and Christine Reevely, and the appointment of Janice Morris and the reappointment of Rebecca Steiner to the Columbia Cemetery District. And as a Tuolumne Public Power Agency, approving revisions to the Tuolumne Public Power Agency's Energy Conservation Program.
Does anyone on the board wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? Seeing none, any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will move on the consent calendar.
First,
Second.
second by Supervisor Brennan. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Mr. 15.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the post-retirement employment of Charles Dyer prior to the 180 days from his retirement of December 30th, 2015.
Mr. Pedro.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Mr. Whitman, who couldn't be here today, similar to what we did with Adele Arnold at your last meeting, we're bringing her back for a very short time frame. In the case of Mr. Dyer, he has some training to do of his replacement, and he also has some specific projects he was going to be working on with the Carla De Ferrari collection and some things related to your board records as well. In order to do that and comply with PERS requirements, your board needs to pass the resolution that's in your packet, and along with it, an agreement that allows him to continue on for a specific period of time through the rest of this fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move on staff recommendation.
I have a first and a second. Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Clerk, please read item 16.
Consideration of scheduling a public hearing to consider the appeal of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission's decision regarding the site development permit and conditional use permit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I unintentionally signed a petition opposing the Columbia Dollar General project, and in an abundance of caution and not to place the county at risk of a due process violation, I need to recuse myself at this time.
All right. In an abundance of caution, I recuse myself from deliberation on the Columbia Dollar General project. My partner represents the owners of a piece of property that Cross Development has expressed an interest in purchasing. I will pass the gavel to Supervisor Brennan.
Mr. Laird.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is Mike Laird, and I'm Deputy CRA Director. Can you hear me now?
Tap on it. Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Do the best I can. On October 6th of 2014, CDDG Columbia LLC submitted an application for the following entitlements. Site Development Permit SDP 14003 for construction of a 9,100 square foot retail commercial building and accessory facilities, and conditional use permit CUP 14012 to allow 230 square feet of signage associated with that building in lieu of the 166 square feet that's normally allowed by the zoning ordinance. The Tuolumne County Planning Commission considered this project at a public hearing on December 16th of 2015. Acting as the decision-making body, the commission denied the site development permit and conditional use permit. On December 22nd, the applicant filed a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to your board. Pursuant to Section 1768130 of the zoning ordinance, your board must conduct a public hearing and either approve, conditionally approve, or deny the application for the requested entitlements. The Planning Commission hearing was held on December 16th. It began at 6 p.m. It ended at 10:45. It was attended by over 200 members of the public. In anticipation of the large number of people interested in attending that hearing, the Planning Commission held its hearing at the Church of the 49ers Faith Hall in Columbia. The Commission had also adopted procedures for conducting the hearing at a notice public meeting on October 21st. The procedures included limiting each speaker to 3 minutes. It is anticipated that a similar number of people will also attend your board's hearing for the project. To accommodate the anticipated number of speakers, the hearing will need to be conducted at a venue that is larger than this board chambers. As such, the Church of 49ers Faith Hall and Columbia Elementary School may be appropriate based on availability. In order to provide adequate time for your board to hear the staff report, a description of the proposed project, comments from the public, the following process is recommended for conducting your public hearing. Open the public hearing and provide 15 minutes for the staff report. Provide 15 minutes for the applicant to present and describe the project. Please note that the Planning Commission did not include this in their procedures. After these presentations, provide time for your board to ask questions of the applicant and staff concerning the project itself, potential environmental impacts, mitigation measures, or any other issues that may concern you. At the conclusion of the question period, invite public testimony following your standard process of having the proponents speak first, followed by opponents, then neutral parties, rebuttal by proponents, and surrebuttal by opponents. It is recommended that each speaker be limited to 3 minutes, and any unused portion of one speaker's 3 minutes cannot be transferred to another speaker. As usual, your board would be able to ask questions of any speaker. In accordance with your standard procedures, upon completion of the surrebuttal portion of the hearing will be closed and your board will then deliberate. During deliberation, your board would be able to ask questions or request any additional information. The Planning Commission hearing began at 6 and adjourned at 10:45. Due to the anticipated number of speakers, your board hearing will likely entail the same time frame. In order to provide adequate time for the hearing and to facilitate members of the public who cannot attend a daytime meeting, it is recommended that your board schedule a hearing in the evening. We've worked with the county administrator and the chief deputy clerk of your board to identify some appropriate dates. Those are Tuesday, January 26th at 6 p.m., Tuesday, February 9th, beginning at 6 p.m., and Tuesday, February 16th, beginning at 6 p.m. The Chief Deputy Clerk of your board has verified that either the 49er Faith Hall or the Columbia Elementary School would be available on each of these days. Due to the anticipated number of speakers, the public hearing may extend beyond 4 hours. As such, it is recommended that if necessary, the public hearing could be continued to the following evening. So we'd recommend reserving any of those venues for 2 nights. We have corresponded with the applicant, and he has requested the hearing be held on February 16th. He has also requested that it be held in the board chambers and during normal business hours. It is recommended that your board establish the procedures described above for the public hearing to consider the appeal of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission's decision regarding site development permit SDP 14003 and conditional use permit CUP 14012 for a retail sales building in Columbia to house Dollar General, and schedule the public hearing for one of the 3 dates suggested previously. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. My name is Sharon Maravich. I'm representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. Dollar General filed its appeal of the Planning Commission's December 16th denial by email in a timely manner, and you do accept email, so this is not a problem. The problem we have is that your ordinance requires all appellants to file with not only the written appeal, but at the same time pay a $150 fee within the 10 days of approval, within the 10-day appeal period. The question the Tuolumne Heritage Committee asked is, did Dollar General pay the $150 fee?
No, they did not. That was based on the Community Resource Agency's past practice. Project applicants, when they appeal their own permit, they have not been required to pay the fee.
Okay, then I would like to continue my presentation. Your ordinance does not exempt anyone, any company, or any appellant from paying the fee during this 10-day period. The fee is there for a reason. It helps defray the taxpayer's cost to do this appeal. That includes printed procedures, a printed agenda, legal advertisements, agency notices, and in addition to notifying neighboring and property owners within a certain vicinity. And I'll read this to you. In your ordinance code is section 1768130. It's a classic example of streamlining. I know all of you love streamlining. This is about as good as it gets. An appeal shall set forth in writing the reason for the appeal and shall be submitted to the Community Development Director accompanied by the fee set forth in Chapter 3.40. The Tuolumne Heritage Committee believes that since the $150 appeal was not paid, regardless of previous practice of violating the ordinance, which Mike apparently says you have been doing, the appeal period has run out. The appeal by Dollar General is flawed, and the decision of the Tuolumne County Planning Commission is final. We believe the decision of the Planning Commission is final because the appeal was not filed in a proper manner.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm going to look to County Council for some direction on that.
Well, I'm just looking at the ordinance code right now, and I need a little bit more time so I can answer your question.
Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Claudia Carlson with Claude's Columbia Market. My wife and I own the market. There's a couple things I want to say. First of all, at the Planning Division meeting, everybody had 3 minutes, and for most people, it was not quite enough. I would ask that you raise the time limit from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Also, I didn't hear mention in there about the state getting their 15 minutes, seeing as this is a very historic area and the state needs time because this is a state park. The state needs their 15 minutes as well. Also, the Tuolumne County Historic Division needs their 15 minutes as well because this is a historic area. You guys will be making an historic decision whether or not to open Columbia to any commercial building like this. So this is a big deal. The Historical Society needs their time, the state needs their time, and we need our time.
I'm Phil Reese, resident in Columbia for 22 years, currently living in Sonora now. I see we have two of the supervisors who have recused themselves from the hearing, and I would like to understand what kind of a vote that it takes to get a final decision on this. There was only 3 supervisors that will be attending. Does it have to be all 3 to get a vote?
Yeah.
What if the vote is 2-1? Then does the Planning Commission ruling stands? Okay. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have it at the church again, which is a very good venue, and I, again, praise the Planning Commission for running a tremendous meeting over there last month. They do have a dais that they can set up. I sat in the back of that meeting. It was a little hard to see the people. I've been in Columbia area planning commissions where they had the area raised up, they had the facilities to do that. So if it ends up at the church, I'd recommend doing that. It's a little more set up, but it'll make it a lot easier for the people. The other thing that concerned me a little bit about the hearing was that we had two representatives there for the project. They were basically people who are going to build the project and own the facility and lease it to Dollar General. There was a lot of questions that were not answered to my satisfaction that could have been answered by a Dollar General employee being there. And I would wondered if that's possible for this hearing. It may make things go a little smoothly. Thank you very much.
It's up to them.
I'm a member of the public, and I want to thank you for holding this hearing and allowing people to speak. Oh, sorry. Is that better? Okay. Mr. Laird, I want to thank you and the Planning Department for pointing out that the hearing was orchestrated by the Planning Commission not to allow the applicant their 15 minutes, which I disagreed with at the time, I disagreed with at the meeting, and I think we would all like to hear from them. And the person who spoke from Cross Development at the meeting didn't seem very familiar with Dollar General and how they do their business, as opposed to the person from Cross Development who spoke for the Jamestown and the Salisburyville facilities. So I would hope that Dollar General on their own would come and speak to us, or at least send someone from Cross Development who appears to be more knowledgeable. And I would like to recommend that you use Columbia Elementary School. I think it's larger, the lighting is better, the parking is better, and I think their technology is a little bit better. I know it was very hard for people to hear a lot of stuff at the 49ers, although I really appreciate them opening up their facility and letting us come there. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to participate. And I believe at the meeting, both during the meeting and at the close of the meeting, the applicant was told they would be charged the $150 fee to file the appeal, because I was standing right there when they were told.
Any other public comment?
Good morning, Board. I'm David Wynn. When I was at the Planning Commission hearing, one of the things that I noticed that I thought should have been was indicative of the limited time that the applicant was given was that when the rebuttal came, they did not rebut any of the opponent's objections. Then when the hearing was closed and it came back to the Planning Commission for discussion, then the applicant was asked several questions and essentially de facto was allowed to testify, and there was no rebuttal allowed by the public. So I would recommend that you give the applicant plenty of time to give their presentation, whatever that might be. And then if they don't get up and rebut, and upon the questioning after the hearing is closed and they introduce new evidence, then the public should be allowed to get up and rebut that. That's my input. Thank you.
Okay, I've changed my mind 3 times now, but I just want to reinforce what Carol suggested. I'm a member of the Columbia School Board, and if it's available, the venue over there would be highly recommended. First of all, there's a stage. We do have good sound system, and it's way bigger. I mean, they were standing room only, packed to the gills at the Church of the 49ers, excuse me, and there were a lot of people who wanted to come but could not because of Christmas events with their kids. So it's going to be a gang. So I would suggest you check with Columbia.
Thank you.
Sure.
County
So,
Counsel.
right, looking at the ordinance, I agree with Ms. Smerovich's reading of the ordinance. However, I'm not familiar with the Community Resource Agency policy of not collecting that fee. So what I would recommend and feel most comfortable with is your board go ahead and set the hearing. I'm concerned about a due process issue, so we will continue to research that in our office. We'll get back to you within 1 or 2 weeks at the most to have a final answer, but we really recommend going ahead and setting the hearing.
Supervisor Hanfield.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, on that legal issue, I'm disappointed that CRA has acted like this in the past, but apparently is being consistent with previous actions, and the applicant probably should not be penalized for that, having been involved in a major legal matter of similar nature, because one of the participants in the lawsuit had acted as though the other people had accepted an option. The court ruled that, in fact, because their actions spoke louder, even though they hadn't accepted it officially, they acted accordingly so that they had accepted the option. So anyway, I think we need to be consistent and fair. So I'm a little concerned that we haven't followed the letter of our own rule in the past, and would suggest that henceforth and forevermore that we do. I don't know how we do that, depending on what your legal work comes out. But anyway, that's on the appeal. I think we owe it to hear that. The second point I'd like to make is of the 3 dates that we are offered, I have long-standing and irrevocable commitments that would conflict with the January 26th and February 16th dates. The only date I have is February 9th. And so if that doesn't work for the other 2 supervisors, we're going to have to find another date, since all 3 of us have to be there. And it's important we hear this. The other one is on the 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, all this kind of things. I would like to point out to you that when the state People's Redistricting Committee had hearings all over the state with people speaking, Supervisor Royce and I both went to speak on behalf of Tuolumne County. I was also speaking on behalf of several other agencies. They gave us 2 minutes, and it was 2 minutes hard. And if you have your presentation order, you can do it. So I think 3 minutes is more than adequate for speakers to get up and make their point. So I think that's important. And other than that, I'm willing to go ahead with the hearing. I think we do need to have a full explanation. It's important. Someone has appealed. They feel like they've been wronged, even though the Planning Commission, I think, does a very good job. It's our obligation to hear it.
Any comment?
Sure. As far as the fee goes, it bothers me greatly that we're not following our ordinances. I think that's a big problem. There's a reason we have ordinances and they're written down. So I'm very disappointed to hear that we're not following that. And it's created a problem here for me. I think I understand what you're saying. I think the fact that that's the information we've been giving out to proponents of projects and so forth is created some form of an obligation on our part. We've taken responsibility for that, but I think it creates a liability, and it's a big problem. So just as an expression to our staff, we need to follow our rules, and if there's a problem with our rules, then we need to change them. But that's a very serious thing. I think we should hold it at Columbia. I agree. I think there's going to be a ton of people there, and I think it is a better venue for parking and all the things that were stated, so I would prefer that if it's feasible. February 9th is fine. 3 minutes, to me, is fine. Every public hearing that we have in this chamber that's got tons and tons of people, or even sometimes we've held meetings in other locations, we've done 3 minutes, and that's been fine. There's going to be a ton of people talking, and we're going to need to be able to get through everybody's comments. The 15 minutes for the proponent I also think is fine. In the past, in other hearings, that's been the standard. I think a proponent deserves enough time to be able to present their project, and that's consistent with what we've done. I believe that's it.
So for clarification, when you say Columbia, do you have a preference? Are you suggesting Columbia Elementary?
Yeah.
Very good. The 9th would also work for me, and I agree with my fellow supervisors' comments regarding the fee, and we'll look forward to further direction from County Council.
I got
Yes.
one more. I do not want to make this thing last 2 days. I think we need to get through it in a day, whether it takes 5 hours or 6 hours. I mean, coming back in 2 days, it's hard when the stuff's not fresh on your mind. It's hard to start over. For people to show up twice, I think that makes it difficult. So I think just do what we can to get it done in one day, even if we have to stick around till midnight or 1 in the morning.
Fine with that. So do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I'll make the motion that we hold the hearing at Columbia Elementary, assuming it's available, on February 9th at 6 o'clock. And
Good idea.
Thank I understand from the Chief Deputy Clerk of the Board that she already made the phone call and is available that day.
okay, for February 9th at 6 o'clock, and that we allow the standard rules, 15 minutes for the proponent to make their case, and that we allow all further comments to be 3 minutes each.
And I would second that and just highlight Phil's comment about a podium for the applicants. I think that's important also.
Agree.
It was not included in the motion.
No.
No, I think 3 minutes for everybody is sufficient. They can have more than one speaker line up and do that.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. The meeting will be set for February 9th at 6 o'clock at Columbia Elementary in the gym. Thank you.
Somebody's closed.
We're going to do further research on that to get.
Does that mean that people have paid fees originally years ago up to now would be able to apply for a money back?
No.
No, that's not what that
Not-
means.
it's
we
also
will
not the
certainly
subject
look
of
at the
this
issue, and
topic.
we will make sure that we have an answer before your next board meeting.
Thank you. All right, if we can bring the other two supervisors back.
The 10th is my birthday, so it's not like an announcement.
Oh, it's all about your birthday. Birthday girl. You're not 6 anymore, Sarah.
It still have to. Yeah.
So you appreciated that comment?
All right. Will the clerk please read item 17?
Consideration of providing direction to staff on the scope and the cost of the new jail project.
Mr. Pedro.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is really a continuation of a discussion that began December 15. And to be as concise as we can, given all of what's before the board today, I put together a brief PowerPoint to keep us right on target. So at your December 15 meeting, staff was given direction by the board to reduce costs of the base jail project using value engineering, to look at the staffing costs or implications related to alternatives 1 and 2 that were presented to you at that meeting, to update the funding plan for the new jail, and to review all of that with the board finance committee before today's meeting. And that finance committee did meet yesterday at 9 o'clock. As far as reports in on the homework, through the good work of the Sheriff's Office, working with Mr. Feist here, Maynard Feist, architect with Lionakis, they were able to reduce the base cost, the cost of the base project by $846,000, from $39.5 million roughly to $38.6 million roughly. That's still over original budget target by just under $2.6 million, but that's good work in order to knock out almost $1 million from the original or the revised estimate presented in December. As far as your staffing analysis, Under Sheriff Pooley presented. There's a staff memo in your board packet. An alternative 1, his analysis says it would require 3 additional jail deputies at a $230,000 annual cost. That's an ongoing cost. And the initial capital savings by going with alternative 1 would be eaten up in about 8.5 years, with that ongoing staff cost. Under alternative 2, Mr. Pooley's analysis suggests that it would require 6 additional jail deputies at approximately $460,000 in annual cost, ongoing cost, and the initial capital savings from alternative 2 would be eaten up within about 3 years. This is hard to read. It's in your packet, but getting to the funding, what is it going to take in order to fund the project? This is more of a cash flow presentation. Again, it's in your packet, hard to read. But in the second column of numbers, it's showing what the amount of money that we would still need to raise through additional contributions from the general fund, other special funds, or some form of borrowing, if no additional general fund dollars were contributed beyond that which has already been committed for the 3 primary projects out on your Law and Justice campus. And that includes your extension of roads, utilities to the jail site, the jail construction design and construction project itself, and completion of the juvenile facility, which is currently under construction. If you look at the bottom line, when you take the sources and subtract your uses, the expenses of each fiscal year, expressed across the top, we have 4 fiscal years where this activity is going to continue to occur, 15-16 through 18-19. And you can see when we would have cash flow problems. The good news this year, mainly due to just some delays in getting the construction projects moving forward, it shows it will be about $1 million to the good in cash within your capital fund related to these law and justice projects. When we apply that next year, it would suggest that we need about $4 million for all of those projects to move forward. Then it would be, you can just see where this begins to build. But over time, I guess the bottom line is that we would need about, without additional general fund dollars, about $11.8 million in borrowing.
Carl?
Go ahead. Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. Pedro. The bottom line figures that you're referring to are additive as you, yes, are cumulative as you go across, right?
Correct. Just showing that it ties in with the ultimate cash.
So
cash
you don't have to add the 4 to the 9 to the 11.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct. And the two big years are 16, 17, and 17, 18, and it diminishes, falls off in 18, 19, and then we'd be done. On the next, so let me go back to that, saying that we need about $11.8 million, either by additional cash or by borrowing. This next sheet gives you an idea of the cost of doing this. There's a question about what if we did borrow another, say, $2.5 million, for that increased cost in the jail itself. I've looked at what it would cost if you borrowed for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years at 3.5% interest. I'm just going to focus on the 20-year because I think that's the horizon that you'd be looking at actually financing this. Just the $2.5 million increase in the budget target for the jail would be just short of $174,000 in borrowing, just to give you that, what's that specific amount going to cost us. If, say, the board, and just for talking, if we were able to set aside, say, another $1 million over each of the next 3 years, we could reduce the amount that we'd borrow from $11.8 million to, say, $8.8 million. It could be whatever number, but just as an example, if you could reduce it down to $8.8 million, you'd be looking at annual borrowing over 20 years of about $612,000 a year. That would be your debt service. If you borrowed for the whole thing, we say we couldn't set aside any additional general fund. We borrowed the entire $11.8 million. Our debt service cost would be about $821,000 a year. And as we discussed at Finance, these numbers are going to change. The cash flow is going to change. The numbers are going to go up and down a little bit. But these are pretty good order of magnitude numbers, just to give you and the public an idea of what we're stepping into here and moving forward with this project. Just quick word on current borrowing. We have two things that we're using internal service funds for. One is our law and justice property. We use our traffic mitigation fund to finance that. Our solid waste operations also used traffic mitigation funds. Externally, there's 4 Jamestown landfill issues that we have using external funding sources. And a little over a year ago, your board also approved the financing of a safety side fund financing, which helped reduce our long-term costs for some of our PERS liabilities. That's what we have today. The next chart just shows what our annual payments are by each of those issues. I would just note that solid waste, that debt service is being paid directly out of the solid waste fund. Only the Jamestown Mine, Law and Justice property, and the Safety Side Fund loan are coming from primarily the general fund. The Safety Side, actually, that's all the general fund. As far as your existing debt, ending balances, I'm going to want you to scan at the bottom of this really quickly, and everywhere where it says SW, solid waste. You can see that over the next few years that all of those debts will be paid. They'll be gone. And the law and justice property by the fiscal year 2019-20 will also be completed. We would have paid that off per plan that the board approved several years ago. So the only long-term borrowings that we're going to have out there beyond 1920 are going to be the Jamestown Mine, and that's our portion of the environmental cleanup out there, and also the Safety Side Fund that's related to PERS liabilities. So all this is to say that we haven't borrowed a lot of money over the years. We pay it off as quickly as we can, and it's relatively minor compared to what most other jurisdictions have. That doesn't mean go ahead and let's load it up, but it means we have capacity for the things that we need to borrow for. So the Finance Committee's recommendations yesterday, after about an hour meeting, was to support the base jail project with the value engineering changes, that $846,000 in savings that Mr. Feist was able to come up with. Work towards reducing our borrowing by admonishing, or maybe a better word is to encourage our architect to save money in design, and I'll add the caveat without negatively affecting functionality. Advance the project quickly. It's just acknowledge that time equals money. There's a cost escalation that occurs here, so we want to move this project forward as quickly as we can. And to continue to look for and apply one-time dollars to reduce the amount that we're going to borrow. And that mantra that we started about this time last year, we need to be asking this question: is this more important than funding the new jail when we look at one-time types of things? The committee also agreed that we should be looking towards our internal sources for borrowing, and that'd be some combination of our internal service funds and Treasury promissory notes. Exactly what combination, how much, when we do it, we'll be able to make a better judgment of that when we get closer to it. And to reevaluate the funding plan every 6 months and/or as significant issues emerge, as some new funding opportunity or some change in cost comes up. If need be, we'll bring that back sooner. Part of the reason for every 6 months, this is a big project. It's a big commitment on the part of the county. The other part is that we can also, as we learn more and can better estimate what we might need to borrow and when, talking with the treasurer's input yesterday and the auditor controller's input, the more we're going to have to borrow, they're going to need that much more lead time to plan for that from a cash flow perspective. So that is a summary of our homework assignments and the recommendation of the Finance Committee. And you have your panel of experts here to ask any questions from.
Any questions?
No questions.
I think the Finance Committee meeting yesterday I thought went real well, and I think that we pretty much did a good job of bringing to the surface the things that we need to look at. So any public comment? Any comment from the panel up there? Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pedro, for a very good presentation. Thanks to the entire panel for the work. As I said before, I think it's really way too early to start dropping off of functionality, so I want to hold the line on that, and I think we've kind of done that. And this is a living, breathing animal as we go forward, so it is going to change. I recognize that. I think a 6-month review is very appropriate, and I'll leave it to one of my colleagues that's on the Finance Committee to make the motion, but I support the committee's recommendation.
Mr. Hadveld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me just say that the jail is probably the biggest public safety issue I can think of facing Tuolumne County. I sat in a meeting at the CSAC annual meeting on administration of justice. The advent of AB 109, complicated by Prop 47, has made huge transfers of risk and cost to our law enforcement agencies. I'm talking the courts, I'm talking our sheriff's office, the jails, probation, the public defender, and the DA. And crime is up, and I think the sheriff would verify that. We, as you probably know, and you've heard me say it and others say it, have the worst jail in the state of California in terms of its functionality and its capacity to meet the needs of Tuolumne County. We get cited every year by the grand jury. We need to do something about it, and we need to move forward. And I believe, because of incidents that have happened in our jail, that we cannot compromise the functionality of the jail, and then save a few pennies on the front end to pay for it later. That really makes no sense, and putting deputies at risk just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think we need to proceed with the full functionality of the jail. I think we need to, obviously, when you do a project like this, there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of uncertainties, and we need to manage those very carefully. So the 6-month review, I think, is important, and as I said yesterday in the Finance Committee meeting, if there are emergent issues, we don't wait 6 months, we bring them forth like right now. But I think we need to look for every source to adequately manage the stewardship of the project and the money, and I'm confident that the team will do that. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what you need for a motion, but
on the recommendations from the Finance Committee would probably
okay,
work.
then I move we confirm the recommendations of the Finance Committee.
You can talk even after we give the motion.
I'm sure I can.
We have a motion. I'm looking for a second that I can do.
I'll offer a second if the my Supervisor Hanvelt will add to that motion a board commitment to, much like we have a commitment every year to have $1 million in reserve, to have $1 million that we put away $1 million a year towards the jail.
I'm not sure if that's the time. That should be a budget.
I don't want to put that in the motion. I have no problem with putting that as a goal.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll second the motion.
Okay. Discussion, Supervisor Royce.
Sure. Now that you guys already figured this out, I'll get my comments in. So I support the plan and sticking with the base design. I think that's the right thing to do for the long term, as you mentioned, AB 109 and 47 and all that good stuff. Makes it complicated to do what we're doing. The issues that I wanted to address here is the borrowing scenarios and the finance portion of this. So we're going to commit ourselves right now to $12 million, basically. And that's the part I really want to think about. That's the heavy part that we got to swallow. Internal borrowing is good, but I want to be careful where that comes from. I don't want to be stealing money out of traffic mitigation fund. I want to stay away from that one because I want to use that one for traffic. I know there's some other ones that we can look at, so just highlight that. As far as the amortization,
we're not going to be stealing now.
You're stealing it for now. So based on what we were told, 20 years, we're not going to have traffic impact mitigation money potentially. I don't want to do that. I want to stay away from road money because roads are a huge problem, and That's a priority for the board as well as public safety. You got a 10-year, a 15-year, and a 20-year schedule here. I don't like drawing this thing out for 20 years. I prefer to do something probably more similar to what Carl's talking about and do it sooner. I don't want to obligate boards and the county in the future for that long. And you're looking at the difference of, $820,000 to 1.4. So in years past, probably the first 5 years I was on the board, we were cutting multiple millions of dollars every single year. So it can be done. Forces us to be prudent, forces us to be cautious in how we spend all of our other operational costs. So that's where I want to lean. Pay it sooner, pay it out of pocket as much as we possibly can, even if that makes it difficult to do our budgets in the next few years. This is a critical, fundamental component to the services that the county provides, and it should be a priority not only in our verbiage and in our plan, but also in our wallet. So that's my comments.
Okay, and we'll address those when we get to a point where we talk about borrowing.
Right, and I think that would be part of a budget discussion. I agree conceptually, but it certainly needs to be part of the budget discussion. And I just want to thank staff also for providing the information.
Okay, any other board comment? I asked for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. Item 18.
Consideration of approving an agreement for architectural services for the Tuolumne County Jail Facility Phase 2 with Lionakis.
Okay.
Pedro.
So, Mr. Chairman, when we first hired Lionakis to be the architect for this project, they did give us a quote for the overall project. We had broken it into a Phase 1 contract and a Phase 2 contract. Phase 1 was for $831,000 roughly, and that got us to this point today. In order to allow Lionakis to get on with design development all the way through the completion of this, we need to enter into a Phase 2 contract, which would total $3,192,518. This is contained, funding for this is contained in this year's capital budget. This is funded 100% using county funds. There's no AB 900 or 1022 offsetting any portion of this. If this agreement is approved today, which I highly recommend, then we will issue a notice to proceed to Lionakis, also making it clear that they will be designing towards the project that you just approved in the prior item.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Just a comment for my friends from Lionakis. As I note in the board memo, it says not to exceed. I have great confidence in your potential not to exceed.
Good point. Okay, any other board comment? Any public comment? Bring it back to the board.
Move on staff recommendation.
First and second, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. I guess we can go to work. Thank you. Do we have enough time, Mr. Pedro, to do 19? Yeah, let's go ahead. Read 19.
Consideration of adopting a resolution continuing the local state of emergency as required by the California Emergency Services Act, Article 14, Section 8630C, due to the drought conditions.
Are you going to do that, Mr. Pedro, or is Ms. Riggs going to do it? Okay.
Yeah, I think it would suffice to say in the drought, with respect to the continuation of the drought emergency, I'll just handle this one, Tracy. With continuation of the drought emergency, we've had very little change with wells that have gone bad and that kind of a thing. But we're still servicing those folks. We're still pursuing the funding, full funding for the other districts. The threat is still with us, and actually it's still happening. So staff would recommend that your board go ahead and approve the new resolution continuing the local state of emergency due to drought conditions.
Any questions? Any public comment? Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah, I'll move on staff recommendation, but before I pass it off for a second, at some point when it's reasonable in the near future, I'd like to see some kind of a plan on what we're going to do to get the people off of the emergency well situation, because I think there's a possibility, perhaps remote, perhaps not, that we're going to have to face a situation in the near future where the governor would rescind the state of emergency, and I don't want to do that right now, but at the appropriate time in the future. But I did move on staff recommendation.
Supervisor Hanvelt.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, if you've been watching the news, the state is disappointed in people's all over the state ability to maintain the 25% conservation, and I think that rain tends to imply, oh, we're out of trouble, and that's not the case. So I agree with what Supervisor Rutherford said. I think we need to monitor these wells, see if we're getting a recharge, but we need to get as many of them, many of the people who have persistent well problems off of water support and onto a public utility like TUD. So I'll second the motion.
Okay, first and second. I ask for public comment. Seeing none, bring it back. For Supervisor Order made a motion. I was looking for a second. The vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Do we have time for the next one?
Be quick.
Okay.
Just to read it. She has to read it.
Consideration of adopting a resolution continuing the local state of emergency as required by the California Emergency Act. It's regarding pervasive tree mortality.
Ms. Riggs.
Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office and OES Coordinator. This is another formality in the tree mortality proclamation for your review and consideration. As you know, the next item is for you to review and consider approving a tree mortality removal plan. So we're asking that you would continue the recommendations, you would continue the proclamation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding that.
Any questions? Any public comment?
Good morning. My name's Rick Carter. I'm from Pacific Ultra Power Chinese Station. We've been working with Tracy and others on this issue. Excuse me. And I want to let you know that in our 2016 annual fuel plan for Chinese Station, we have penciled in some 500 bone-dry tons of fuel coming from the county starting in March through June. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, to repeat, we have penciled it into our fuel plan about 500 bone-dry tons of fuel coming from the county tree issue starting in March and going through June. Don't really know how that flanges up with what's going to ultimately come out of this tree mortality task force. But we just offer that for your information.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, the motion.
I'll move on staff recommendation.
Second.
First and a second. Randy, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. I think it's going to take a little while for the next one, so we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll have our... Already heard that. Number 6. We had that's the consent agenda, and it passed. And I asked for public comment on the consent agenda. That's when you should have got up and spoke. So it passed. You're okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna have a break now. All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting of January 5th back to order. Clerk, please read our 10 o'clock appointment.
Consideration of referring an ordinance amending the uniform zoning ordinance addressing medical marijuana to the Tuolumne County Planning Commission for review and recommendation after conducting a notice public hearing, and the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 1.10 with regards to enforcement of violations of Chapter 1767.
County Council.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Gray, members of the board. Here we are again. As your board is aware, Ms. Drivdahl and I presented to your board at your November 3rd and your November 17th meetings related to the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act. And this legislation went into effect January 1st of this year. However, the deadline for local jurisdictions to address cultivation is March 1st. We understand Assembly Bill 21 was amended yesterday, and it is the legislative vehicle that would remove the March 1st deadline from the legislation. We also understand it's very likely Governor Brown will sign the legislation prior to March 1st. However, as of today, the March deadline remains the status of the law, and if your board wishes to address cultivation not just to meet this deadline, but to also address concerns you've heard from constituents on both sides of the issue, then we recommend you proceed today. At the November 17th meeting, your board directed staff to work with Supervisors Royce and Brennan to draft proposed ordinances related to cultivation and enforcement of medical marijuana. Included in your agenda packet are two proposed ordinances that Ms. Drivdahl will go over in more detail in just a few minutes. The proposed ordinances are intended to remain in place pending further detailed work by a more comprehensive working group, which will include members of the public, such as qualified patients and primary caregivers and concerned neighbors. And this working group is set to commence work in June of this year, which is after any potential ballot measure language is known regarding legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. So the objectives set by your board for this ad hoc committee included allowing a small-scale medical marijuana cultivation by qualified patients or primary caregivers, an express ban on large-scale cultivation and enforcement of violations in a timely and meaningful manner. Medical marijuana distribution is not addressed in the proposed ordinance, which means it remains banned in the unincorporated areas of the county under the principles of permissive zoning. As your board is also aware, the zoning ordinance will need to be forwarded to the Planning Commission. However, the enforcement ordinance can be considered by your board through the routine 2 readings and adoption of ordinances as set forth in the government code. And now I will turn the presentation over to Ms. Drivdahl.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. At your November 17th meeting, your board directed staff to work with Supervisors Royce and Brennan to develop a proposed ordinance for your consideration. Although medical marijuana cultivation is currently prohibited under the principles of permissive zoning, your board expressed interest in allowing a small amount of cultivation by qualified patients and primary caregivers, pending the outcome of the work of the larger medical marijuana working group later this year. Using Mariposa County's ordinance as a template, the proposed ordinance before your board allows a qualified patient or primary caregiver residing on a parcel to cultivate up to 6 marijuana plants. If 2 or more qualified patients or primary caregivers reside on a parcel, up to 12 marijuana plants may be cultivated. These plant limits apply to both indoor and outdoor grows. Given the wide range of residential parcel sizes in the county, from 2,600 square feet to hundreds of acres, these plant limits were determined to be an appropriate initial balance between patient access and impacts to neighboring properties, pending additional consideration by the larger medical marijuana working group later this year. These numbers are also in line with similar marijuana cultivation regulations in other California jurisdictions. In addition to the plant limits, the proposed ordinance includes additional regulations related to cultivation from the Mariposa ordinance. For outdoor cultivation, the grow area must be located at least 50 feet from all property lines and be fully enclosed in an opaque fence at least 6 feet high. For parcels under 20 acres in size, the parcel must be at least 1,000 feet from a parcel containing a sensitive land use, such as a school, school evacuation site, place of worship, public park, licensed family daycare or center, or youth-oriented facility. For parcels 20 acres and over in size, the fenced grow area must be at least 1,000 feet from a parcel containing a sensitive land use. For indoor cultivation, the proposed ordinance would require that the structure meet all building code and zoning requirements. The specific requirements would depend on the type of indoor grow system set up. The proposed ordinance does not include distance requirements for indoor cultivation. For both indoor and outdoor cultivation, the proposed ordinance requires the qualified patient or primary caregiver to permanently reside on the parcel upon which cultivation occurs. Finally, if the person cultivating is not the legal owner, i.e. a renter, a notarized letter from the legal owner allowing cultivation must be obtained and presented to the enforcing officer upon request. Any cultivation in excess of the plant limits or not in compliance with the regulations would remain prohibited. The enforcement ordinance before your board proposes 3 main provisions to streamline the co-compliance process for marijuana cultivation violations. First, it declares marijuana cultivation violations to be violations impacting health and safety. Such violations are given higher priority by code compliance pursuant to your board's direction. These violations do not receive an opportunity to correct, but go straight to a notice and order, which shortens the administrative process. The proposed enforcement ordinance also limits the abatement period to 10 days and reduces the appeal period also to 10 days. The proposed enforcement ordinance provides a framework for a more streamlined administrative enforcement process for marijuana cultivation violations. However, without staffing and other resources to support it, even the most streamlined enforcement framework may not be effective. The ordinances before you today require separate processes for adoption. The proposed zoning ordinance must be referred to the Planning Commission for consideration and recommendation after a noticed public hearing. The proposed enforcement ordinance can be handled by your board as a 2-reading ordinance. This chart gives a proposed scheduling. To be very clear, the enforcement ordinance would not go into effect unless and until the zoning ordinance is adopted. In conclusion, here's a brief overview of the 2 ordinances before your board today. For the zoning ordinance, we are requesting your board refer the ordinance with any board revisions to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation after conducting a notice public hearing. For the enforcement ordinance, we are requesting your board waive the first reading and set the second reading for your February 2nd meeting. If you have any questions, we're ready.
Any questions?
Walk me through an enforcement action. Who's going to do what? Is the sheriff going to do it, or is our code people going to do it?
As it is set up, the enforcement of the zoning of this particular zoning ordinance would be handled through co-compliance and the sheriff's office, with the sheriff's office providing a technical support and assistance with regard to safety issues.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to ask for public comment, but how many people expect to speak during public comment? Okay, we'll keep public comment to 3 minutes. We have a new machine over here that should keep you on track. Okay, don't be intimidated. So if you wish to speak, please come to the podium, and if there's any questions, we'll take the questions after public comment.
Not a whole lot of room on this podium. Good morning. My name is Kira, and I'm here to put a face to the concept of a cannabis grower. I'd like to share some insights with the public about what goes on the other side of the fence. I wanted to thank the board for requesting a redraft of the proposed ordinance and reverting back to old state standards. But I caution the board in writing an ordinance, even a temporary one, that may not be state compliant. The numbers game is over, and the new state laws are based on square footage. And as such, regulating agriculture as agriculture, and marijuana is agriculture now in the state, that I think that should be considered. Maybe not for this ordinance that has a sunset, but maybe for the more long-term ordinance in the future. I also want to thank the board for seeking the counsel of a study committee to draft a future ordinance that will harness and hopefully incentivize the outdoor cannabis industry in Tuolumne. The same process has been underway in Calaveras, and I would like to share with you my insights as I have had a foot in each county for a year now. Across the river, the government is working hand in hand with community members to ensure that cannabis remains the cash crop that has been a huge part of their economy for decades. Seeing more local businesses trampled underfoot by corporate big box stores popping up along the 108 corridor, I question what this county really wants to become. It has had such a rich history of economics based on resources, on agrarian practices, on the foothill lifestyle. Calaveras has maintained their agrarian approach as a right-to-farm county by taking the lead and working together with cannabis farmers, and I feel that Tuolumne has much to learn and gain from their example. Although I was born and raised here, last year I left to work on an outdoor cannabis farm in Calaveras, and I wish to share with you some insights. I purchased and coordinated materials and labor to build and manage a 1-acre farm in Calaveras. We spent $150,000 in materials, which means we spent over $10,000 in sales tax. That stayed in the county. We employed an average of 10 people full-time from April 1st to December 1st, and we paid a living wage, not minimum wage. No one was on welfare. We paid out $30,000 to local contractors, got all necessary permits, including conversion permits, CAL FIRE permits, timber harvest permits. We donated $5,000 to local charities before we even made a buck. We also donated cannabis to the Calaveras Cannabis Alliance Patient Provider Program, and the list goes on of our community efforts. We are farmers to the truest sense of the word. We are a part of the community, and we don't want to be considered the illegal criminal growers that rape the land and shirk civic responsibility. We're here to serve, and we're here to be a part of this community.
Thank you. Next, please.
Will there be another comment period, or is it just this one?
This is the only public comment period.
Happy New Year. My name is Sally Miller. I'm from Lake Don Pedro subdivision in Tuolumne County. I am here to ask the board to pass the proposed ordinance, Chapter 17.67. The county officials have worked hard to adopt this proposed ordinance. So let's give the county departments the tools to do what is right for the county in regard to the marijuana issue facing our area. These growers create a nuisance, a safety issue, especially the firing of high-caliber guns, to intimidate us, which creates a potential violent situation, not to mention the environmental issue that show a major problem. As per my photos that you have in your possession from previous meetings, we should not have to live like this, not able to go to the bottom of our property when they are planting, growing, and harvesting because of the danger. We cannot use the zoned walking trails, equestrian trails, for fear of confrontation from these large cartel or network growers. We are not here for banning small amounts of marijuana, medical marijuana, 6 to 12 plants, on legal county permitted residents with a septic on the lot and proper documentation which is stated in this ordinance. Now, in this express ban on the large marijuana grows, is the quantity on that express ban also the 6 to 12 plants? I don't see anything listed in that respect.
We'll answer those questions. County Council is going to make note. We'll answer all of them
afterwards.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I hope we pass it.
Good morning. My name is Scott Fischler, and my comments are primarily related to process and transparency. Over the last 60 days, during 3 of the County Supervisors' 5 board meetings, inclusive of today's session, the County Board of Supervisors will have spent roughly 7 hours of valuable public time in these chambers deliberating and debating the issue of medical cannabis. And here's how the numbers break down. So in November, approximately 1/3 of the available time spent in this room by the county supervisors on the entire agenda was related to medical cannabis at the expense of other pressing issues in this county, such as economic development, meth and prescription drug abuse, and actual crime reduction in the county. Now it's January 5th. Approximately 15% of the time on this agenda today will once again be dominated by the issue of medical cannabis. Add all this up, and 7 of roughly 35 available hours in these chambers in the last 60 days have been spent discussing medical cannabis. That's a lot of time discussing medical cannabis. So we are clear here that the county government will have spent an enormous amount of time on this issue. And there's more. Next month, approximately 10% of the County Board of Supervisors agenda will again focus on the issue of medical cannabis for a second reading, review, and proposed adoption of a clarified zoning code. Summing up, county government has spent over 20% of its public time in the last 2 months on the issue of medical cannabis, largely at the behest of a minority vocal group of homeowners in one pocket of a large county. Additionally, county staff at the direction of the Board of Supervisors has now spent a significant amount of time and resources at the public's expense to build a case for excessively prohibitive regulation of medical cannabis in Tuolumne County. I don't have time to pick apart Chapter 17.67 here. That will be done elsewhere within the committee, and others perhaps will use their 3 minutes to do so. The limit of 6 plants per person or 12 per property is an arbitrarily small limit and should not be passed. As a voter, as an advocate for safe access to medical cannabis, it increasingly appears that the purpose of these deliberations have not necessarily been to seek compassionate compliance with newly enacted state laws effective on January 1st, but to take a well-worn and somewhat ill-informed path of vilifying medical cannabis, as I've heard in prior meetings here, and attempting to use the county's power of code compliance for enforcement, placing a significant burden on a hardworking sheriff and his staff and his overextended and underfunded county law enforcement, rather than embracing and seeking taxation on medical cannabis to fund additional law enforcement in this county and provide the sheriff and his deputies with the resources that they require to fight real crime caused by meth, opiate addicts breaking into vehicles, homes, and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jana Evans. The problem I'm seeing with this ordinance is that, once again, you're not talking about the people that really need it. The people that really need marijuana are sick. Now, we could open a dispensary in this county of CBDs only. Doesn't get you high, does everything marijuana should do for cancer. Are you guys aware of CBDs? Do you understand that there is healing here? There's a lot of healing that can do. I just don't understand why you gentlemen can be so cold-hearted to not evaluate what it costs a person who is very ill. They can't do a grow. They can't do a grow indoors or outdoors. That's the whole problem here, and we've brought this up over and over and over again. You need to change your thinking to look at the people that really need marijuana. You can't tell me you haven't seen the paperwork Sarah, Heron, and I have given you throughout the last few years. You can't tell me you don't understand that there is plenty of research about marijuana all over the world. You can't tell me that you didn't see CNN about the children that were in seizures. You're not addressing the true purpose for marijuana. You're only thinking out of fear. You're making decisions out of fear. If you change your decisions to start thinking about the people that actually need this medication, then you become compassionate. Then you become part of this community. And it's our fault, too, all the people in this town, this county that don't stand up. We need to change the people that are on this board if we want them to understand that there is a large population in this county that supports this county through marijuana. You know, buying things, owning homes, donations, volunteer work. A lot of these people are growers. We have an immense amount of growers in this county, and they're afraid. They don't come out. But they need to, and they need to be told to grow CBDs. We need to understand that that is a medicine, and we need to use that medicine to help children that are in epileptic fits or people that are in cancer. Or it's just, you have to start thinking of as medicine, not as something that's vile or horrible. The woman that's talking about guns and all that would be eliminated, because you would have the money to properly take care of that sort of thing. You don't now. This county doesn't have a lot of money. We're not rich. This is a way for you to understand that we can help sick people and we can help our county. I wish you'd just start thinking that way instead of the way you're thinking. Make your decisions from love and compassion rather than fear. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Henley Chapman. This is the first time I've ever been to one of these meetings. I read last night on Facebook that you want to say, separate from a renter or lease agreement, that the property owner has the right to say whether you can or cannot grow legal marijuana for your personal use. Sorry, that's discrimination on medical issues. That's a renter's issue, not a medical cannabis issue. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's John Nessel. I'm a business owner in this county. I'm fifth generation of this county, and I love it. I love living here. And I think we need to move forward with this whole thing. We're just backtracking over and over. We just need to make decisions and start thinking about our county and the future of this county. Because I don't want to move my businesses elsewhere. I'd like to prosper here, and I think this would really help our whole community all over the place. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment, and we did have a question that was asked. County Council, could you answer that question?
Sure. Are you referring to the question related to the express ban on the large-scale cultivation?
Yes.
That essentially is anything over 12 plants on a parcel when there's 2 or more qualified patients or primary caregivers.
So it covers the big ones as well as the little ones?
Yes.
Okay.
It essentially it's 12 anything over 12 plants on a parcel. If there's 2 or more primary caregivers or qualified patients, is going to be considered a violation of the proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to the board for any questions, comments. Supervisor Royce.
Well, just quick. Hopefully this ordinance will hold us over and will help deal with some of the problems that we're having right now. There's a few things that come to mind, I guess, that people commented on that I wanted to address. I guess as we move forward, distribution will be addressed when we deal with the working group. That will be one of the agenda items that will come back to the board in the future. So issues like cannabinoids and those things, that will be discussed in a lot more detail when we have time to deal with it. Right at the moment, we have problems in neighborhoods. In Don Pedro, there's problems down there, and they're not people that donate to the community. They're not people that that are trying to just live a rural agrarian lifestyle. They're people that are operating in a black market, and they're using medical cannabis as a loophole. And they're down there where, there's neighborhoods and there's very serious impact. So this will help our code compliance people deal with this issue. This is a land use issue. We're trying to make considerations for the people that need medical cannabis, but at the same time, this is a land use issue, and it has impacts on neighbors and on the community, and so that's why we have a zoning ordinance to address that type of use. So I think this is a good start. Hopefully it holds us over. I appreciate the time that county staff has spent on this, and I support it at this point.
Supervisor Brennan.
I Actually, jump in real quick. Sorry. I forgot one other thing. The issue of canopy space and that kind of thing will be addressed at a later date. I know that there's different state laws and guidelines that are coming out. It's a lot harder to regulate that type of thing at this point. We're not up to speed on it. Just counting stems right now is a lot easier. So that's what we're looking at.
Supervisor Brennan.
The only thing that I'd like to add to that is that I hope some of the individuals that have spoken up will put in to participate on the ad hoc group because, as Supervisor Roy said, we want to be looking at these issues and move forward. And so contact Alicia. You'll have the applications, county clerk.
Okay, Supervisor Hanvelt.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I appreciate people wanting to manage my time. Thank you very much. But I want to assure you I didn't spend 20% of my time working on medical cannabis. It just isn't that way. I do spend a lot of time trying to learn about the subject because it's important to you and other people. I also appreciate you telling me what I'm fearful of. I'll tell you what I'm fearful of. I said it at the last meeting, and it isn't medical cannabis. It's the availability of the drug to small children in the formative years and the impacts that it has on brain development and making these kids ultimately wards of the state. You got to assure me ultimately in the final analysis that that isn't going to happen because it scares me. We've seen the results of that. We've seen it in our schools at a very low level. And that's the irresponsibility of the users. You people who want to use it, like I said before, you're grown adults, that's okay. I mean, you want to use it and it's medical reasons, I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with you indiscriminately making it available to people who don't have a need. So anyway, I want to say that I agree, and I thank the staff for the amount of work they've put in on this. And I know this isn't the last time we've talked about it, so we'll spend a little more time on it. And you got a first and second on this?
No,
Okay.
we're just doing some discussion. Go ahead, Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, I also want to thank the committee. I want to thank the community. I want to thank everybody that's come out and talked to us on numerous occasions. And I want to tell you, personally, I'm not opposed to even recreational use of marijuana if it was done properly. I believe that nationwide we are approaching this in the absolute wrong way, and it's an illegal way. I don't believe that a single one of our state statutes is legal from a constitutional perspective. There's a Supreme Court decision that says that the Controlled Substance Act is a legitimate, and specifically to marijuana, is a legitimate use of the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution. And I don't believe any state or local jurisdiction has any authority to do anything that contravenes the national listing of cannabis as a controlled substance on Schedule 1. The right way to do this is to get our federal government to relist or delist cannabis with respect to the Controlled Substance Act. And honestly, I swore to uphold the Constitution of both the United States and the state of California. But when you've got a Supreme Court that says that the United States law is supreme, that's exactly what it means. And I don't believe that I have the authority to vote anything to include this proposed ordinance that violates the federal law with respect to cannabis. I wish the current administration would do something to enable us as local legislators to do this. I fully sympathize. I am compassionate, but I'm sorry. I don't believe I have the authority, and I'm going to abstain because I can't vote no, but I just don't believe that I have the constitutional authority under my oath of office to vote for this. And I'm sorry. I wish I could.
Okay. Everybody else has had a chance. Sometimes, we sit up here as supervisors. We don't have a choice of the things that we have to address, or a choice of the things that we need to focus our time in. And this is an important issue. It's for the reasons that Supervisor Rotifer brought up, for the reasons that Supervisor Royce brought up. We just can't stand silent and not do anything. So this is our first step of trying to do something, trying to move forward, and try to get something that is right. And I don't know if we're going to answer Supervisor Rotifer's questions. I have no idea. But I think we would not be doing our job if we sat here and did nothing. So what I'll be looking for, if there's no other questions from the board, is I believe we have two separate motions.
Correct.
And the County Council, will you go ahead and address that?
Right. The first motion would be related to the zoning ordinance, and that's really just referring the proposed ordinance to the Planning Commission.
So I'll make that motion based on the recommendation. And I would also like to direct staff to come back at a later date to look at the impacts that this will cause to our code compliance department or our division, and the workload that they have. They deal with other code compliance cases, and also it's our chief building official. So you have to deal with keeping an office running there. That's something that we need to make sure we're not just putting this workload on them without considering the resources it's going to take to do the job. So at a later date, I want to address that as well.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any more board discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Yes,
One.
abstain.
Second abstention. Same reason.
We have two
Two abstentions.
Two abstentions. Okay, so it passes 3 with 2 abstentions.
And
Got it?
those abstentions are Supervisors Rutherford and Supervisor Tample.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, would the next motion?
Right. The next motion is related to the enforcement ordinance, and today your board can waive the first reading and set it for a second reading and adoption, which would be our proposed time frame, February 2nd.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Yeah, I want to clarify my previous comments. Given that the board has chosen to pass or to refer the ordinance, if the ordinance is passed, I will support the law enforcement aspect of it.
Okay, so a motion?
Move on waiving the first reading and taking the ordinance to the Planning Commission?
No, to your board at your February 2nd meeting.
There you go.
I'll second.
Okay, well, first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes 5-0. Would clerk please read 10B?
This is consideration of approving the County Council, Sarah Corrios, testifying on the January 19th, 2016 at the California State Assembly during a joint informational hearing.
Ms. Grill.
Thank you. Members of the board, as you heard earlier, on January 3rd, I received a request from RCRC Legislative Advocate Paul Smith
Eat the mic.
to testify at the State Assembly Committees on Business and Professions, Health, and Agriculture's joint informational hearing entitled Medical Marijuana, the Plan for Statewide Implementation. This hearing is scheduled for January 19th, 2016. According to Mr. Smith, the Assembly Committees would like a county perspective on the efforts to implement the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act. Mr. Smith is particularly interested in the fact that Tuolumne County did not have an ordinance in place prior to the legislation going into effect, and would like committee members to hear about our efforts starting basically from ground zero when it comes to implementation of the new law. This is a somewhat unique perspective in that many jurisdictions already had some sort of ordinance in place prior to January 1st, and it's important to give the legislators a different perspective. Mr. Smith would also like my input in regards to addressing unclear language in the bills that may make implementation difficult. And additionally, I welcome any other feedback related to this testimony that your board would like to provide. So I recommend your board approve my testimony at this hearing, and I understand that this testimony will occur during the next board meeting, so I will assure you that my staff will be here to cover your board's needs during that meeting. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Public comment? Looking for a motion?
No, it's in regard to her testimony on the effort that we've.
Okay. No public comment?
I move we approve.
Motion. Motion.
I
and
can
a
think of
second.
no better spokesperson.
Call all those in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 21.
Consideration of approving the County of Tuolumne tree mortality removal plan reflecting changes suggested by Cal Office of Emergency Services.
Ms. Riggs.
Good morning, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office and OES Coordinator. As we discussed during the last board meeting, we would come before you with a draft plan for tree removal. A tree removal plan is required, while our county still is the only county that has received approval for California Disaster Assistance Act for tree mortality. A tree removal plan is required before any expenses can become eligible. Within the plan that you have before you, there are several items that we wanted to bring to your attention. The first is just like our emergency operations plan, when I began drafting this plan, the idea was to keep it as open and flexible as we possibly can as we move through this process. As Supervisor Hanvelt and Supervisor Brennan know, as we go to these meetings, they are still trying to define what it is they're going to allow us to do. So within this plan, while we're talking about within 200 feet of public infrastructure right away or 1,000 feet within a community, they don't know what that means yet, and they can't define it to. So that's not written into this plan. It is written that we will do only what they're requiring, such as utilization of a registered professional forester or an arborist. They must be the ones who designate the trees for removal, and they will provide a written report to us so that we can use that as backup for the trees that we need to remove. Now, when we talk about order of magnitude, Duke York and his staff have been out over the last few weeks combing different areas of the county trying to estimate the number of trees that we might have to be removed. Now, keeping in mind that we haven't had RPA and a registered professional forester out there or an arborist who's actually gone into these areas, but on their drive-by, he has estimated essentially about, I think we came up with 7,200 trees. The registered professional foresters within our task force have said we need some type of growth factor in there, anywhere from 20 to 60%, 40%. So we've used a 25% growth factor. We don't know what that number is going to be when we get out there and they start identifying these trees. Also, staff spent time in trying to estimate the average cost per tree. As many of you know, depends on where that tree is located, depends on the size of the tree. Do they have to bring in equipment? Can they just fall it within a forested area? Is it next to a home or other public infrastructure in which they have to then piece it and bring it down? So an estimate of, I think we used $1,000 per tree was on there. So if we were to remove all 9,000 trees, we'd be looking at $9 million. Now, keep in mind, and it sounds staggering, and it is staggering, but yet we still have to work with how many of those trees really are still the responsibility of AT&T and PG&E and maybe Comcast. So we, during our task force meetings, will continue to work with them, and as the registered professional foresters go out or the arborists with the crews, we will be looking at that. Are those near power lines? Are they within the distance in which they should have the responsibility for removing those trees? I know in the priority area number 2, I think Duke had listed that maybe as many as 60% of those trees could be AT&T's responsibility, and that's where the largest number of trees lie, but we won't know. So I guess essentially what I'm telling you is we have a drive-by number. We'll come back to you in next board meeting with a more defined budget action that we'll be asking, and how would you like to approach that and consider setting aside funding so that we can begin if you approve this plan today. So with that being said, the plan before you, I did hand out to you a copy that Cal OES gave me last night at about 4:30. The only changes that they have to our plan were in the private property area. And I agree that I should have been a little more clear. So if you go to page 4, it talks about private property. And originally I had hazard trees located on private property will be assessed and removed with landowner approval, and only once the right of entry permit that was drafted by county council has been signed. What we've added is that hazard trees located on private property that threaten public right-of-way or public infrastructure. And then on the bottom, they are the ones who also added the county will not be requesting reimbursement from Cal OES for the removal of trees from private property that do not threaten the public right-of-way or public infrastructure. It's kind of redundant, but they want it in there again. So you'll see that this plan, again, being brought, it is you've already seen partially the organizational approach, and I think it's important that the state see how we are approaching this as an operational area, and that's why I approached it that way. So it is not, and this is not an exhaustive list when you look at the core planning team, when you look at our tree mortality task force. There will be others that will be added. I've had a few suggestions, such as having YSS on there. I do have listed U.S. Forest Service, then we have also U.S. Department of Agriculture. Those are two different areas in which they're representing, and we have two different individuals, one coming from USDA who may have some funding available that will help private landowners. So when you look at some of this, it may look redundant, but there's a reason that they're in there. We have subgroups, so once I have direction from you and we have an approved plan, those subgroup meetings will start taking place so that we can start working with, as you heard from Mr. Carter earlier, Ultra Power has penciled in that from March through June that they could take 500 bone dry, ton per month. So in speaking with our unit forester from CAL FIRE, Adam Freeze, and looking at what's out there, he seems to think we could meet that with no problem. But we do have to get it hauled there, and we do have to get the property leased that we've already approached the individual who owns that property outside there to talk about that lease. All of that will be brought to you once we have an approved plan at the next board meeting. So we have we'll have a few professional services contract that we'll be looking at. We can talk about more definitively how much do we think we may need between January or February at that point and maybe June for the work that could be completed during that time period. Trying to think if there's anything else within this plan to bring to your attention. I continue to work with the other local districts. A meeting will be set up with our cemetery districts. I've already met with the county schools and taken them through the process. I think I told you already, Tuolumne Utilities District, Twain Harte Community Services District, and Groveland Community Services District. I know that TUD and Twain Harte have submitted. I'm not positive that Groveland has yet. And talking with Dave Gillings, who is the Cal OES Public Assistance Officer, the one who is actually approving the plans and approving CDAA, we still remain the only ones who have received approval for CDAA. Once you approve this plan with any direction that you may have to add, change, edit, delete, then I can resubmit. Once it's approved, then we have the ability to begin taking action and moving forward. The other thing I want, I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry.
One more thing I want to think about too is when we're looking at the cost, what's not also been taken into account, and we'll do all of that when we come the next time, is use of our inmate crews. Been speaking with the undersheriff. They have their own local inmate crews that we can use. They're very interested in participating in this and getting in there and helping out, as is CAL FIRE crews as they're available. So, and then also equipment that might be available that we wouldn't have to rent. CAL FIRE, that's one of the things under the executive order. They have some chippers. They have some other type of equipment that they would be able to bring in. They would man that equipment, but it would still be available. Be one less thing that we would have to be responsible for. And then finally, in the very last page, I want to bring to your attention, because I just had this conversation with David Gillings this morning. Again, the Public Assistance Officer for Cal OES. Mr. Pedro and I were discussing last night, could any revenue that's generated from the wood that we remove be used as our 25% match? This morning, Dave Gilling said he didn't see any reason that in fact, he brought it up before I even brought it up, that we could use that for that. Then he started kind of saying, let me look into it. So in here, what I've changed is that any revenues generated from the sale of any of the wood products salvage may be used to offset the local match of 25% or to offset our claim. So that allows us right within this here to, if they say yes, you can use it as your 25% match, that further reduces, that's a cash match, and it further reduces what we would need to be asking for. And with that said, Mr. Peter, is there anything else that I'm missing or?
I don't know, missing, but just some areas of emphasis. I know that the work of our state task force members, Supervisors Brennan and Hanvelt and Trace, addressing some of these big policy issues, what we can, what we can't do, this reimbursement thing, the Department of Industrial Relation, registration, prevailing wage, whatever it takes to keep Ultra Power open and profitable for, we hope, for a long time, because they're essential as a place to take a lot of this material. Those things are absolutely critical. Those aren't spoken of in here as much as they were in that organizational approach. And I think the greatest fruit will be actually through that task force and addressing those kinds of issues. Again, on the cost of this, just to say, we're not approving that today. I just felt a responsibility to give you an idea of what we're possibly looking at. As you look at that kind of share of cost, or the total cost, and then the county's potential share of cost, that pursuit of federal reimbursement is also really important, because we're talking about the difference between us having a 25% share of cost versus a 6.25% share of cost. Makes a big difference in the amount of money coming out of the county's coffers. So just wanted to add those things for emphasis, but at the same time, we're not approving a financial plan today.
Okay. Supervisor Rutherford?
Yeah, a question, a couple questions, actually. First of all, BLM, why is BLM not a participant? I couldn't find them on any of the lists.
They are. I just left them off. They have participated. There was a gentleman there,
I want to make sure that they were involved. The other question may be for County Council, I'm not real sure who, but in the case where hazard trees are on private property, and there's two situations that I can envision. One is we can't get contact with the owner of the private property, and the other one would be the owner, we can get contact, but the owner basically refuses to allow us to cut down the tree and doesn't do it himself. What recourse do we have if that tree constitutes a real and present public safety hazard?
It's possible to use the code compliance process for that, including summary abatement or abatement from the county. And there's other legal processes that could be used, but I would think that would be the fastest, most effective. And that's something that we've briefly talked about, but we haven't really discussed in great detail.
Okay, I would like, the next time we talk about this, I would like to kind of have a game plan outlined on how we might deal with those two kinds of situations.
Supervisor Hanvelt.
Thank you. Just for clarification, while we have CDAA approval, we have no idea what the limits on that are.
You may remember, you're right, we don't. But on that resource allocation worksheet or matrix that they gave us, I believe it said about $60 million within that.
I understand, but there's a lot of demand on that $60 million.
There is, and we're just now saying we would need about 7 of that right off the top. So Mr. Pedro and I were just talking about that yesterday. We're saying we need 10% of that, and we are, one of the 6 counties. So
this will expand well beyond the 6 counties. So, in fact, that's one of the points I was going to make is that. Pardon?
We do.
Well, we are in first, but I don't know how they allocate money when they allocate money. You know that.
Just be kind to
the problem. The problem is going to far exceed that, and so just a couple of comments. We do need to look after where other sources of funds are, and the federal funds is important. The federal designation of that fund is a big deal. The SRA and AB 32 money, Adam's writing that down, I see that. But with those, we need to put on. But a really big portion of the problem in dealing with this dead and dying tree issue. By the way, if you look at the amount of trees that are already dead in the state and the trees that are expected to die, rimfire is a pretty small occurrence relative to this. This is massive. And we desperately need the biomass plants in the state, ours and others. They're dropping off the line now because their contracts aren't being renewed. And Ultra Power is on the list to come off next year. And it's just wrong. We need that for forest management, and we need it to deal with this problem. And that's got to be a big part of our issues. And I know I and others on the tree mortality task force are pushing that big issue. But it's important, and it has an urgency associated with it. So there's a lot more to this than this plan. I think this plan is a really good start, and it's local, but the big picture requires us to do a whole lot more. And saving our biomass plants is part of the equation. We also need to request, I think, a few more, and I sent you that note, a few more items from the state, and because they're willing to buy things for us, like these air curtain burners. But we need lots of other things, and one isn't enough to deal with the problem. So anyway, a lot to do, but I think it's a good start.
Supervisor Brennan.
Completely agree with those comments, Supervisor Hanfeld. And literally, I believe, is a mantra from this county about the importance of all of the infrastructure that we have available to us and the need to be able to utilize every tool that we have. One of the concerns that I have is we continue to look at this as the immediate threat from these hazard trees falling to the infrastructure. And I don't believe we've had the discussion yet about the threat from fire. And I have tremendous concerns that we confront this and address this very aggressively with the governor's office, particularly, as I understand it, if we had a tree fall that was not, maybe it was 100 feet and it was not going to impact the immediate infrastructure from the act of falling, but what about the potential from fuels loading and fire? And certainly that concern extends to PG&E and what we've seen with them falling the trees and not having capacity to remove them and leaving them on the landscape. So I would like to see us committed to having that discussion and looking for some resolution so that we are evaluating what the threat is from these trees to the fuel loading situation.
Good. The biggest issue that it seems that we're getting towards is the place we're going to put it. We've got Ultra Power saying 500 bone dry. What's that, about 200 truckloads? Yeah, I mean, it's a small amount. So one thing that we might want to look at is the possibility of log export. I know we don't do it out of the national forest, but we do have a place in Stockton that does export timber. Maybe a little more proactive and look into that. The other issue has to do with what I observe out right now with the utilities. AT&T has not stepped up to remove dead trees along their lines that are not associated with PG&E. So I don't know who's the governing agency that would be able to put some pressure on them to do their share of the work, because quite frankly, I see hundreds of trees along AT&T lines that they may not take out the system completely, but they're certainly going to take it out for a while. So I really would see if we could push AT&T to be a little more proactive in what they're doing out there.
Perhaps a letter from the board to the AT&T CEO.
Maybe from the new chairman might be
Possible.
appropriate.
You could add Comcast to that.
Chairman Gray, just real quick, so you know, we did push before the last task force meeting, and I think I may have told you, but we did have 3 members of AT&T there. They varied in levels of management, but one of them was his name is Jason, who manages the tree removal. Then we had a mid-level manager, and we had an executive in there. And they have all committed to get in there and help. I have Jason's card, so if anyone is having issues with that, we do have them. But we will continue, like we said in here, we will be identifying which tree is whose responsibility, and then pressuring them to do that removal. I think this is the first time we've gotten them engaged and to participate. So the fact that they're there, I think, is positive. I just want to see what are they willing to actually, are we going to see some action out of them? So I guess what I'm saying is...
You might have them look at Ferretti Road.
Yes.
First, because it does affect me, and that would be important if I lose my phone. But no, there's other places, but that's a really good prime example of a bunch of dead trees that are going to take out a phone line. So, anything else? Any public comment?
I would just encourage, my name is Chris Barsanti from Columbia, and I would just encourage Supervisor Brennan and Hanvelt as members of the state task force to please push the issue of private landowners, because on my property I have 30 to 40 dead trees. I do not have an extra $30,000 or $40,000 to get rid of them. They don't pose a threat to any public infrastructure or I don't have any telephone lines or anything going through there, but I do have a neighbor who, if those trees fall toward that neighbor's house, then that would be quite a bit of damage to their home. So, we didn't cause the drought. I realize the state can't pay for everything, but, it's just an overwhelming burden to a private landowner. So I encourage you to keep plugging for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning. I'm Rick Carter from Pacific Ultra Power Chinese Station. First of all, we really want to thank the supervisors for their support and encouragement toward toward keeping our business open. We certainly want to do that too. Secondly, I'd like to clarify a little bit when I said we have penciled in 500 bone-dry tons per month. That was really just for the lack of any other number. We would have, if we knew a better number. Is it 1,000, 700? We need to, I think, work together toward clarifying that. We do have the ability, at least at this time, to turn on and off other suppliers from out of the county. Okay. But the sooner we know the numbers, and of course, we talk about 9,000 trees. Are they that big, or?
Yes.
I don't know.
Right.
All of the above.
Yeah. We need to figure that out. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Questions?
The bigger they are, the bigger hazards they are.
Nope.
Thank you.
Duke York, Deputy Director of the Roads Division for CRA. I'm actually speaking as a private citizen. I want to chime in on an issue brought forward by Sherry Brennan. When we talk about those health and safety issues, I champion my 610 miles of road, and my efforts have been focused on that. But I want the board to be aware and the public to be aware that there's anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 miles of additional roads that are various flavors of easements. Many of them are public, and they do have power lines, so thank goodness PG&E will be going down there and doing some clearing. But when we're talking about the total volume picture of these issues and the public health and safety issue, let's not forget that there are those roads in the county, and they do provide a service for the public, and they provide access in the event of wildland fires. So I'm just pointing that issue out as a private citizen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, just one more observation before I'll make the motion, and that is the immensity of the problem, and I really appreciate Ultra Power's interest in helping us do this, and that is the best use of doing this. But with a massive number of trees out there, I'm going to make a prediction for you, and that is that we're going to end up doing much like the U.S. Forest Service has done with rimfire biomass material that could have gone to the plant and been burned and made power and reduced the criteria pollutants in the atmosphere had it gone through a biomass plant. They were piling and burning and continue to do that. Huge piles that would astound you and see how big they are, and put that in the atmosphere. We're going to end up doing some of that. That's going to be the ultimate thing. We need to utilize as much as we can in a productive manner. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this plan as presented, recognizing full well that it's a living document and we'll be adjusting it with time. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just to passes 5-0, but this is a lot of work, and it's certainly appreciated all the time that you were putting in here. So keep it up. Next item.
22, consideration of approving correspondence to the Stanislaus National Forest concerning the Rim Fire Restoration Draft Environmental Impact Statement.
Mr. Richardson.
Good morning. Daniel Richardson, Deputy County Administrator. We are at one of those moments at the post-Rim Fire. This is over 2 years after the Rim Fire has been put out, where we have the reforestation draft environmental plan that is available for comment until January 11th. So this is the board's only opportunity to provide a comment letter on this DEIS, the Draft Environmental Impact Statement. So this proposal of the almost 300,000 acre fire, 154,000 of these acres are in the Stanislaus National Forest. This plan is slated to treat 48,000 of those acres within the forest, within the national forest area. There are a variety of treatments they're planning to make that will help noxious weed eradication, natural regeneration, deer habitat improvements, actual planting trees, which was announced this morning by Rebecca Garcia from the Forest Service, as well as thinning of the plantations that will actually be put into the ground, making sure that they can survive future potential wildfires. So what we did is we took this draft environmental document to the Natural Resources Committee, and they submitted, provided comments. Rather than selecting one of the 5 alternatives that the Forest Service has put out there, the Natural Resources Committee decided to give principled comments, and that is what included, it was written in your draft letter, are principles. And let me just go over some of these. Not wanting to have a too dense of a forest that will be susceptible to catastrophic wildfires, concerned that the whole plan, thinning and other parts of the plan, will not receive ongoing sufficient funding to actually do the work. Making sure that there are other types of trees currently not in the plan, such as gray pines, and then Supervisor Hanvelt also pointed out blue oaks will be another species that we would want to have included in the replantation areas. Use of increased grazing to take care of noxious weeds and keep the shrubs down. Use pesticides also for that purpose. Support the planting of a diverse forest. Support biomass removal rather than burning to the extent feasible. We know that can be very costly. And also make sure that this is an opportunity to do experiments to learn from this fire recovery so they can be applied throughout the state. As we know, every year we have catastrophic wildfires. So that is what is included in your letter. It's available for comments. I do have the one comment that Supervisor Hanvelt added on Blue Pines. I just added that to a draft letter. I'll pass that out to you now. I guess while you pass that out, I'll just make note. We're making principled comments. The Yosemite Stanislaus Solutions, they decided to make their comment. Their proposal is to divide the replantation, the treatment area into fourths, and to use a different treatment method on each of the quarter areas as an experimentation, and then to have lessons learned from that.
Supervisor Rutherford.
Just a question in regard to that. Is there anything inconsistent between what we're commenting on and what the YSS comment would be?
Slightly.
I'm sorry?
I believe there is. I've got a couple comments on
Supervisor Brennan.
So I want to start with just a couple of clarifications because I want to be sure that we're factual on this. And first, in the first paragraph, we talk about the rim fire burn area as a repeat of the 87 complex whose recovery plans did not prevent the 2013 rim fire. That statement, I think, is fundamentally not true in that there was a tremendous effort after the complex fire to remove the vegetation. Unfortunately, with the plantations that were put in afterwards, they didn't have adequate funding to go in and do a lot of the brush control that they should have. And so the issue was not in their recovery plan because they actually did a lot more acres than what they're proposing to do for the rim fire. It was in their ability to manage the landscape after they had gone in and done treatments. So I think you make that point, but I think it's important to learn lessons from the past, and the lesson from the 87 complex fire is that we've got to manage. We have to have the funding to manage the treatment areas. Under number...
Can we address that before you go to the second
Sure.
one? Possibly something in after the 87 complex fire whose recovery plans did not prevent. We could put something there due to insufficient
I've got
funding.
a recommendation, yeah. I would say after complex fire whose post-implementation management of recovery plans did not prevent the 2013 fire. Post-implementation management.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
And then in paragraph 2, in addition, a price tag cannot be placed on the lost timber, and I would insert timber and watershed value because it is the complete watershed that we lost so much value in, whether we're talking about habitat value, water capacity. It's across the board with watershed values. So I would just take out overall viewscape and put timber and watershed value.
Does that work?
On your bullet points, under B, I think we are not concerned with pesticide applications, but herbicide applications. And I would also like to include a comment I have heard from some of the permittees that any herbicide application be done in coordination with the permittee, with allotment permittees. There is some concern that some of those applications could have a negative impact on cattle fertility. And I think that's something that the agency could very easily accomplish. With reference to the blue oaks, I actually think there is a high percentage of black oaks out there also, and so I would not, on number 3, I would not call out specific species, but certainly would encourage I would remove bullet point 3 and encourage number 5, which just emphasizes supporting the planting of a diverse forest.
Do you want to include oaks?
To include, yes, we could give examples. That would be the gray pine, blue oak, and black oak.
Okay.
And then, no, sorry,
That's
just
okay.
a couple of more. By default, the majority of that landscape will be an alternative 2. So I do not support doing, of the treatments, I really believe that they should be equally split between the other 4 alternatives, much like YSS has proposed. And I would like us to be specific in a statement to that effect, because alternative 2 is basically doing nothing, and we're going to see the majority of the rimfire landscape with nothing applied to it. The other statement that I think is important to include here is that roughly 18% of the federal land within the rimfire perimeter had a salvage component attached to it. We know that we have to remove the dead material before we can do any reforestation or restoration effort, and I think the county should strongly support any continued effort to remove the dead material from the landscape that has not been treated at this point. Quite honestly, I know that we have a number of limiting factors within the agency, primarily their inability to get the dead material off of the majority of the landscape and funding. And so I understand those constraints. I understand that's why they have come forward with the plan that they have, but I find it wholly inadequate and believe that we are only setting ourselves up for a much larger catastrophic fire out there. So I think as a county we need to encourage them to continue whenever and wherever they can to remove the dead material that remains on the public lands.
That's under any alternative.
Under any alternative.
Okay, so
in
can
a
you
closing paragraph.
fit something in there, Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Any other comments? Supervisor Hanvelt?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify one of the comments that Supervisor Brennan made. She said 18% of the federal lands, 18% of the Forest Service lands was treated with a salvage component. There's a significant portion of land that is also federal land in the national park that was not touched, will not be touched. And so it's a small clarification. But I think the other comment I guess I'd like to see is encouragement that they not forget that immense amount of land outside this, and it still needs restoration. And letting it go to nature's plan, we'll have nothing but a brush pile.
That's right.
Okay, would we trust Mr. Richardson to make those changes, or do you want to see it back at?
I trust Mr. Richardson to make the changes in concert with Supervisor Brennan, and if Supervisor Brennan is happy with the language, I would be happy with it.
Does that work?
And I want to thank Mr. Richardson for working on this over the holiday.
Happy New Year. Okay, so the action, any public comment? Bring it back to the board for an action. Do you want to make the motion as you?
I'll move to approve the letter consistent with the changes that Supervisor Brennan recommended, and will be coordinated with her by staff, and also to make the following changes. After the 1987 complex fire, whose post-implementation management of recovery plans did not prevent the 2013 fire. And then in the next paragraph, in addition, a price tag cannot be placed on the loss in timber value and watershed, period. And then striking subparagraph number 3 in the third paragraph and adding to paragraph 5 after support the planting of a diverse forest to include blue oak, black oak, and gray pine. And then changing in subparagraph 4B, support the judicious use of herbicides, and adding a subparagraph 4C, use of herbicide applications. The use of herbicide applications should be coordinated with cattle grazing permittees.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Clerk, please read the next item.
Consideration of approving correspondence commenting on the rural area representatives of counties draft 2016-17 policy principles.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Hanvelt, your RCRC delegate, asked me to compile some comments to RCRC's draft 2016-17 policy principles and to put an initial draft letter together. I've prepared that for the board, sent out an initial offering last week. I did eliminate, I think I sent out last night, there was one section that dealt with medical marijuana program management. It was too confusing, not specific enough, so in talking with the department, I've removed that from the draft I sent last week, and that's reflected in this draft I just passed down. Otherwise, it's the same document I sent last week. So it's offered for your comments, changes. I want to also just say thank you to the departments that plowed through this, that did offer comments. Ethan Billenmeyer in our office helped compile the initial draft, and I've asked Daniel to help with some of the changes you may direct today.
Okay, any questions, Supervisor Hanvelt?
A couple of quick comments. First of all, I want to say thank you to the staff for doing the work. This, for the public's benefit, this document is 73 pages long, and it's not exactly something you speed read. It's policy statements, and it's really, really tough. I was contacted yesterday by the director of the Motherlode Fair, and she has some comments she wants to discuss. She won't be back until Thursday morning, at which point I'm going to meet with her and get those fair comments. I have no idea what they are, so I don't know whether we need to incorporate anything or send a separate letter or hold this and add that. But you'd have to trust Mr. Peter and I to deal with that if that were the case, because we don't have time. We got to get it in. This is how we get our comments in to the RCRC platform, if you will, and our advocates go out and promote these things. So this is a really important document. RCRC is effective. I had one comment in there where they talked about supporting oak woodlands, and my only comment is, we support policies for healthy oak woodlands, not just oak woodlands. But I don't know if that's that important. I could probably add that during the meeting, which takes place week after next.
I think it's important.
We could easily add that one comment.
Okay, any other comments on those 73 pages?
I do have one comment reference the fair. I kind of liked the RCR's position on the fair. I would not like to see any substantive changes. If the fair board doesn't agree with our comments, then they can submit their own.
Supervisor Brennan?
Yeah. And this question is for Supervisor Hanfeld. In reading this, I was, with the biomass discussion on page 19, I was kind of struck that I don't think it's adequate, and think that we need some, them to recognize some policy for support of a fee formula that incentivizes the use, continued use of biomass, and recognizes the benefit to carbon, the governor's goals on carbon levels. So carbon is discussed quite a bit in this document, but and like I said, there is some reference on page 19 to biomass, but I would like us to be more specific in our request. And then lastly, I was kind of struck, forest management is discussed in a number of places. Saw it on page 50, 51, 26, 62, and I saw one very short line in there about water, and believe it was on page 62. There is an exhaustive discussion about water, but as it primarily relates to origin of water rights and different Bay Delta plans, did not see any strong recognition that the Sierra Nevadas represent 75%, I believe the number is 75% of our natural storage capacity, and the importance in recognizing forest health for water capacity in the state of California. So I would like to see something added, possibly on page 50 in the forest management section. It calls out some of these specifically. It calls out a few of the multiple use benefits, but gives no mention to water.
Okay. Any other comments? Any public comment?
Yes, thank you. I agree with Mr. Rodefort. Our Motherlode Fair is not a county entity. It's a state entity, as a district agricultural association. So if they have something to say, they should say it on their own. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Peter, do you have anything else?
Maybe we can do the similar, if you can approve the letter with the changes, maybe with final proof by most of the comments I heard from Supervisor Brennan.
Okay.
Similar
Does that
to what-
work? That's fine. Okay. Looking for a motion, Supervisor Brennan. You're the one that caused all this turmoil, so I'll leave it up to you.
I move approval of the comments with some additional language regarding the importance of water in our forest management practices, and discussion of a price formula for the biomass plants.
Second.
First and second, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes 5-0. Clerk, please read item 24.
Consideration of approving an agenda for the 2016 Board of Supervisors Planning Retreat on January 28th through 29th, 2016.
Okay.
Mr.
Mr.
Pedro.
Chairman, members of the board, I should be thanking you all and Mr. Chiat, I think is how he pronounces it, for the work and discussing what you'd like to see on a retreat individually with him. The product that is before you is 100% Bill's work. Had about a 10-minute conversation with him as he transmitted it. And it's offered for your approval, modification approval, as you see fit.
Okay. Any questions? If we get through that agenda, we'll be really lucky. Okay.
First of all, I think the retreat is a very important thing for setting the stage, the tone, and establishing the energy of the organization moving forward. What I'm concerned about in some of these things is, and I can't read into it whether it's there or not, but I would really like to see the presentations from the department heads a forward-looking, not a backward-looking event. I'm not interested in self-serving performance appraisals. What I'm interested in looking at the challenges going forward, how we could break out of our system, be more productive and more effective in what we do, and deal with the challenges that we can see, and maybe react to when we emerging issues going forward. I'd like to see us look at that kind of concept as opposed to looking back, looking forward. And I would like to ultimately challenge the creativity and the agility of the organization in how we do things.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just agree with Supervisor Hanvelt. One of the things, though, that I'm not a big fan of history lessons, but I think that it is useful to share some best practices. So in the extent that there's some specific item or two for each department head that they're justifiably proud of and think might be of use for other departments to consider something parallel, I think that would be useful. I also want to publicly state that this is probably, from my perspective, this is the most important thing that we do short of dealing with the budget every year, because it's our singular opportunity to really have a time to focus our energies on dealing with the staff. A lot of what we do is receive reports from the staff, and it's very hard for us with the 12 to 14 committees and commissions that we're on and participating in, besides sitting up here 2 Tuesdays a month. It's very hard for us to really get good insight into the staff activities and what they're all about and what their needs are. And one of the challenges that we have is making sure that our staff has the resources that they need to get the job done. And this is our opportunity to understand those things. So this is not a boondoggle or anything like that. Actually, it's quite an expenditure of staff time, and I want everybody on the staff that's going to expend that time to know how important it is to me personally as a board member, but I'm sure it is to all of my colleagues.
Mr. Pedro, going back to Supervisor Hanvelt's question, I'm looking at the agenda. Do you see a particular spot in there where we could highlight that particular?
I think it's a matter of emphasis, like Randy's saying. It's hard to read exactly what Bill had in mind, but we can certainly provide
Talk
that
about it
emphasis.
when we get there.
You know,
All right.
the important
Okay.
lessons, most important lessons from the past, things that people are particularly proud of, picking up what Carl's saying, and yet try to look at the things, be as forward-looking as we possibly can.
Okay. Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for approval of the agenda.
I move on staff recommendation.
The first.
Or Mr. Shiatt's recommendation.
Second.
And we have a
Yes,
second
yeah.
with Supervisor Royce. Call for the vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Passes 5-0. Okay. 25.
Reports.
County Council, would you like to start us off?
Sure, why not? So I wasn't able to report last time, but the first week of December, I did attend CSAC and several committee meetings, including the Administration of Justice meeting and Medical Marijuana meeting, County Council Roundtable. And as you also know, Carlin Driftall and I have spent a great deal of time working on medical marijuana, which was presented to your board today. Chris Schmidt's been working on conservatorship issues, many Public Records Act requests for the Sheriff's Office, and Carlin has also spent a great deal of time on Dollar General. Cody continues to keep busy with the contested hearings and juvenile dependency cases. Thank you.
Supervisor Brennan?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just would like to acknowledge that, and this goes back before our last meeting, but did not get a chance to report on the 9th, that the Sierra Nevada Conservancy was here, did a tour on the forest, and then had a reception. And there were a couple of individuals that really helped make that successful. The reception afterwards was a great time for folks to have good conversation about what they saw out on the forest, particularly with regards to the rim fire. And I would like to thank Ember's Restaurant and the culinary school at the high school. They did a great job and really made Tuolumne County look exceptional, in my opinion, at that reception. We had a Vision Sonora meeting on December 17th. It was a relatively short meeting, and would just say that the city is looking for different funding opportunities for some of the projects that they're putting forward with regards to some of the beautification with downtown elements in trash receptacles and sidewalk chairs and things like that. I know there will be discussions moving forward on different elements of the plan this year, and again would encourage all the listeners that are interested to participate. Those meetings are generally held the fourth Thursday of the month at the Sonora City Hall.
Supervisor Royce.
Sure. I don't really want to report on anything other than a couple issues that I've been having over the last few weeks. With the storms that came in, I received very high volume of complaints about waste management not doing pickups. I think it was in 2012, we had a town hall meeting in Twain Harte about this issue, and they created kind of a backup plan in response to the problems that they were having. They had waste bins in Twain Harte that people could go dump to. They could get refunds if they didn't have pickups, and also Waste Management had a call system in place. I received a lot of complaints that people, they didn't have the waste bins, they didn't get notifications, and even after the roads were plowed for several days, there were no pickups. So, and it happened on multiple occasions with different people. So it's a problem. The two-cart system doesn't work when there's snow, and I mean it's a real problem for a lot of people. So in the past, after they made concessions and they had their contingency plan, it seemed to work. But anyways, that's something we need to deal with. Received a few snowplow complaints, not too many, being that we probably haven't plowed snow for 2 years. I expected more, so that wasn't too bad. And then the last thing I wanted to address was the traffic from the people coming out of the valley to play in the snow. It's a huge problem, and it's a major asset in a way that people want to come up here and spend money and play around. But we need to be able to deal with the volumes and the impacts from that. There's garbage. There's people that are there's no bathrooms and people are going to the bathroom. So those things are big issues. I talked to Scott Clamp out in the audience this morning. He said there was 111 citations that were given out for people illegally parking right on the side of the road. There's garbage everywhere if you look at it. A little kid got ran over. A 7-year-old kid got hit by a car while his family was loading. He ran out and got hit. And so this is a very serious problem. I think, like I said, tourism is a huge part of Tuolumne County's economy, and we don't want to discourage that. But if there's going to be those kind of volumes of people coming up here, we need to be able to have ways to deal with it. So I think I would like to direct staff to look into maybe working with the Visitors Bureau and Caltrans and maybe the Forest Service to look at ways to, once again, garbage, if we maybe have bins or a way to deal with that, portable bathrooms or something. There needs to be something done. And there's different stakeholders, but I think, like I said, working with the Visitors Bureau and kind of planning for some of these things, I think we could reduce the problems that we're seeing right now.
I just want to add on to that. I had to make several trips over the last few weeks down to the valley and back in the traffic. You know, if you're an old timer, you know how to get around it, but if you're stuck in it, it's not very good. But what I don't understand is what has changed so quickly, other than we haven't had any low-level snow in 4 years. You know, maybe this is like a one-time event. But what the problem is that, we have the commercial areas, the Leland Meadows and Dodge Ridge, and where people can enjoy it, but there just isn't a spot where somebody can take a kid off of a Forest Service road and slide down a hill. So now we park on the edge of the road and we slide into the road. Doesn't make any sense to me. I certainly want to participate, but maybe that's another thing that we can look at as far as developing another
Snow
lower
park.
level snow park, something in the national forest that by the time you get to Leland Meadows with a family and you're coming from Modesto, you want to stop somewhere way before that because you're tired. So maybe it's something that we could look at with the Forest Service, the Visitors Bureau, everybody combined to come up with an idea. Maybe, where you actually have a place to get off the road, park, have the facilities. Maybe it's a good project for a private person or something like that.
Yeah. The other thing, basically what we're trying to do is figure out how to get people to obey the law in some of these cases, right? So that's, passing another ordinance isn't going to fix that and all of that stuff. So I agree. I think there obviously needs to be some more recreational outlets. Maybe we look at developing those. But also, one of the things that I've seen in places where they do have expected high volumes of traffic is there's big signs that are well above any anticipated snow level that say no stopping on the side of the road. And you see them about every 100 yards or 200 yards.
I think signage could
be one approach to that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my report.
Okay. I want to thank Supervisor Royce for leaving me my only report item, which was on the I lost my date. Oh, there it is. On the 17th of December with Supervisor Royce and his lovely bride, I attended in San Francisco a ceremony honoring the cooperative arrangement between PG&E and the tribe, our local Tuolumne Band of the tribe. It was a wonderful ceremony, complete with some tribal dancing and some other very educational activities. And I applaud PG&E for setting that up. It was a little difficult to find their parking garage, but once I got past that, it was a wonderful event. And I think that it highlights something that we may actually be unique. I don't know, because everywhere I go, all I hear about is difficulties with tribal relations, and we don't seem to have those. And I think that's not just because we're good at what we do, but it's because they're very good at what they do. And I think it's important that we always acknowledge that. And PG&E apparently does as well. So it was a wonderful event. Other than that, I had a fortunately uneventful Christmas and New Year's, and I hope everybody else in the county did as well.
Supervisor Hanvelt.
I really have nothing to report, but I would like to comment about Supervisor Royce's comment about all the traffic. It was nice to see. It was nice to see people come back to Tuolumne County in the winter. Yeah, that's all good sign. I realize it causes some problems, but I hope the upcountry people were feeling a positive economic impact out of that. I think they were. And while it's an annoyance to have all that traffic when you got to go someplace in your own town, it's a good thing. And it's a challenge. I'd like to challenge the Transportation Committee to deal with that problem in Caltrans.
Okay. Supervisor, excuse me, Mr. Pedro.
Good morning.
I'm trying here. I'm
Okay.
trying to get this done.
Well, just a couple things. I did call. I've just been curious, so I did call up to talk to Louise Besworth, who headed up the whole NDRC thing on behalf of the state, just to see, have you guys heard anything? Because I am starting to get inquiries. I just yesterday got a call from Tuolumne Park and Rec about one of the resiliency centers. I had a fire company call, ask about some stuff. And anyway, they have not heard one thing, not a question, not a suggestion that, yeah, we like you guys and you're going to get everything, or, we haven't heard a thing. They're still saying they should hear this month, but I have nothing to offer, so in case you're out there and people are asking you if you heard anything, I got it directly from Louise, and that was verified with Sue Naramore with the CDBG, program. So for what that's worth, back to what are we hearing a lot about is what your tree mortality, a lot of calls, coming in. Had a great conversation with a gal up in the Leisure Pine, area, very polite, just want to know what are you guys doing. When I explain what we're doing, what what the board's doing, that made them feel a whole lot better. But there's a lot of questions still, though, what we can do on those private properties, as was discussed earlier. But we're hearing it too, and I know we're anxious to get out there. But boy, it's really important that we measure twice, cut once, make sure we're following the rules. Because I've been on the other side of that, where you get too proactive, and then you get burned. Because then you started doing something that is not recognized, that you will not receive reimbursement for, and that kind of a thing. But having said that, I get the idea. And we are definitely, and I hear that, and Tracy's heard that. Even the folks at the state OES, they're just directing people to Tuolumne County, because they said Tuolumne County knows more about it, than anyone else in the state, including state OES. So I guess that's a good thing. Yeah. And then lastly, just to mention, I know there's been asked, I know this is particularly an area that, Evan's mentioned a couple meetings and some other things about the fire study. As you know, we've been a little staff deprived here lately, but I'm trying to work on that as I can. I'm actually meeting with the fire chiefs this week to try and get their input on scope. At the last time we discussed this, you guys gave me a pretty good list of the kinds of things, which is a pretty broad scope. But I'm going to take that list of things and go talk with the fire chiefs and start, getting that dialogue going, so we can get some buy-in on what the scope, would be of that study. So that's it.
All right. So we have a 12 o'clock appointment. We can take a few minutes break. And
You want to report anything?
I'm not going to report anything. No. What I would like to report is that it has been an enjoyable year. I think we did get a lot of things done. It's when you reflect back, you always think, well, maybe we could have done more. But I know the effort was there, the heart's there to try for us all to do the right thing, and I think it will continue under the next chairman, or whoever it may be. And just to continue the work that we've had. We never know. Nothing's good. But with that, I'll go ahead and take a few minutes till our 12 o'clock. Call the meeting back to order. We do have a 12 o'clock appointment. Before the clerk reads that, I have one more piece of official business that I need to do here. As customary, we always reward people for length of service. And I have here County of Tuolumne in appreciation of 5 years of service, Evan Royce.
Oh, cool.
Along with that, I have County of Tuolumne in appreciation of 5 years of service for Randy Hanville. Hey, when supervisors get this, it's important, but I think the other supervisors should be rewarded also for having to put up with something.
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm glad that was your last act.
Okay, clerk, please read our 12 o'clock appointment.
This is an election of the chair and the vice chair of the Board of Supervisors for the County of Tuolumne for 2016. And if you would pass me the gavel so I can do that, would be awesome. Thanks. And I also want to give you a gavel of commemorating your 2015 year, and thank you for a job well done, Supervisor Chair John Gray.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to call for nominations or even a motion, if you'd like, for the chair for 2016.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate or move that we select Supervisor Rodefer as our chairman for next year.
Second.
So we have a first and a second. Any public comment on that? Any oh.
I'm the only one here who's not an employee of the county. How about that? This interested party.
It's okay. We appreciate you being here.
You should. I'm here a lot. So I'm okay with Mr. Rodefer, but I want to thank Mr. Gray because I just thought you were outstanding. Because I write to you 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you always answer me. So,
I don't have a life. I just lay in bed by my phone and just answer anything that comes.
and you don't even have to, and you made really thoughtful comments, as did Mr. Royce sometimes. So you're not even my district rep, but I really appreciate that, and I thought you did a really good job. And I also want to say that I was really cognizant of how hard you worked to try to make sure the public had an opportunity to comment at every time. And I hate that stupid pro-con rebuttal, sur-rebuttal nonsense, and a lot of times you didn't do that, and you let everybody speak as they wanted to, and I thought that was really great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
He's going to have a swelled
So
head.
I would like to call the vote. All those in favor for Supervisor Carl Rodefer as chair?
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. Oh, and Supervisor Rodefer abstained. Thank you. Now I would like to call nominations for the vice chair position or a vote.
I would like to move that Supervisor Sherry Brennan be elected as our vice chair.
Second.
Any discussion or public comment on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained?
Aye.
Okay, that carries 4-0 with Supervisor Brennan abstaining, and congratulations. And now I would like to pass the gavel on to our new chair, Carl Rodefer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before I have the clerk read our closed session appointment at 12 o'clock, I just want to make a comment that I really appreciate also, as have so many others apparently, the service of Supervisor Gray as our past chairman. I think he did an absolutely impeccable job. I hope to be able to live up to that standard in the coming year, and I'm very honored to be your new chairman, and thank you very much for the vote of confidence. And now will the clerk of the board please read our 12 o'clock closed session.
This is a closed session public employee performance evaluation authority government code section 54957657B1 title county administrator.
Do we have any public comment on the closed session item? I assume we do not plan on to report out anything. Okay. We'll hold that. No. Okay, we will now recess into closed session. We will be back at 1:30 for our 1:30 appointments. Okay. The Board of Supervisors was reconvened. Will the clerk of the board please read our 1:30 appointment?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we're back from closed session. We have
I'm sorry, we are back from closed session and we have nothing to report.
Okay, the first one is presentation of the chair's appointments to the Board of Supervisors Committee and Commissions for 2016.
Okay, you had delivered electronically to you my board committee appointments, and I have 2 corrections. So first of all, under the advocacy organizations, which is about halfway down the page, on Rural County Reps of California / CHF Authority, it should be the GSF Authority now. I believe they changed their name. And
GSFA.
GSFA. And then the second change is all the way at the bottom, the last line, on temporary committees and organizations. Vision Sonora implementation. Their makeup is the District 1 supervisor, which is Supervisor Brennan, and the board chair, which is myself. So, John, I'm sorry you're off of that one. And does anybody have any alibis or regrets or anything, or are we all okay with those? It's an ad hoc. Okay. Marijuana committee is Supervisor Brennan and Supervisor Royce. Okay. Yeah, you need credit. Okay. So if there are none, then I'll assume that those are okay, and I am going to recess the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Tuolumne County Water Agency. And my presentation of the chair. Oh, go ahead and read that one, please.
This is presentation. Did you want public comment on the other one?
Yeah. Any public comment on our assignments? Thank you. There we go.
Okay, and then you're going to recess right now?
Recessed as the Board of Supervisors, reconvened as the Tuolumne County Water Agency.
And this is presentation of the chair's appointment to the boards, committees, and commissions for 2016.
And the only appointment under the Tuolumne County Water Agency is to continue with myself as the chair and Supervisor Hanbelt as the other board representative on the Tuolumne County Water Policy Committee. Again, I'll ask for public comment.
Uh-oh.
I'm just kind of curious. I haven't seen anyone from the county at any of the TUD board meetings. Do you watch on Granicus? Nobody wants to go? Those people need to be watched.
To answer your question, I do review them. I don't watch it live all the time because I may not be able to, but I do review
It is an ordeal.
No comment.
Okay.
But yes, I do, and I'm sure others do as well. Plus, we meet periodically with members of their board and their staff as well.
And their GM.
So, and their GM. Any alibis, complaints? Okay, then I'll assume that those are approved as well. And now we need to read our closed session.
Do we need to recess as?
I'm sorry, recess as a Tuolumne County Water Agency. I'll get it right here sooner or later. And reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. And if you please read our closed session.
Number 26 is conference. It's a closed session, conference with labor negotiators, Craig Pedro and Ann Friend, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units, and conference with real property negotiators, price and terms, Authority Government Code Section 54956.8. Negotiators are Craig Pedro, Daniel Richardson, Kathleen Half, related to the .17 acre parking lot in downtown Groveland owned by Tuolumne County and its APN 03104.
Okay, any public comment on any of the closed session items? Do we plan on reporting out on any of the items? Okay, then we will recess the Board of Supervisors open session and go into closed session at this time.